Today I want to talk about habits. In yoga we call these samskaras, which translates from Sanskrit as habits, patterns, impressions from our life. And we all know different habits that we have and how we can get into that pattern. They're like grooves of a record, right? And the more that we do something, the deeper those grooves get. And sometimes it can feel like we get stuck in that groove, stuck in a rut, right? That phrase. But the amazing thing is that we can change that. So in yoga, we've been talking about that. Yogis for many generations have been talking about this ability to change our samskaras, change our patterns. And now neuroscience is talking about it as well. Looking at our brain, we have the ability to change our brain, to change patterns and neural connections in our brain. This is called neuroplasticity. So with neuroplasticity, it's the idea that when we consistently do something, we can create new neural connections in our brain and strengthen those with practice, with continuing to do them. And then other patterns or habits that we maybe want to let go of, if we're focusing on different habits or patterns, those connections begin to get weaker. One of the ways that we can begin to change our brain, and research has also shown lots of positive effects, is through meditation. So in MRI studies, looking at the brain, with meditation, different areas of the brain are lighting up. Areas of the brain that typically degenerate as we age are staying thicker and stronger longer. So it's really amazing that things like meditation, breathing, physical yoga asana, the movements can all help us create new neural pathways and new samskaras. So let's start with a short meditation. And this meditation, we'll just do a very short silent one, about 3 minutes. And I invite you to be really patient with yourself. So if your mind wanders, that's okay. Just gently come back to your breath. We'll use our breath as a focal point. And know that, again, you're strengthening this new neural connection, and it's going to take time to develop it. It's going to take practice. Our brain is a muscle, just like our biceps, and we're not going to instantly have super strong muscular arms. It takes gradual practice, right? You lift light weights and then slightly heavier and slightly heavier. Same thing with meditation. Start with a short amount of time, gradually add on. So sit tall, get comfortable. Let your hands rest on your lap, however is best for you. You could close your eyes or keep them softly open, but gaze away from the screen. Give your eyes a break. And take a moment to come to your breath. Not trying to change anything, just follow it in and out. And if your mind has wandered, just very gently and compassionately bring it back to your breath. Notice your inhale and your exhale. to your breath if your mind wandered. It's okay to do this over and over. It's not a competition. It takes practice. Again, we're utilizing neuroplasticity, beginning to change our brains with this new habit of meditation. And developing a new habit takes time. So it's important that we have patience, that we have compassion for ourselves as we cultivate this new skill and this new habit. So continuing to sit either with eyes closed or with eyes soft, we are going to begin to add in a mantra. So mantra is a sound or a phrase. And so if you're used to a habit or a pattern of a silent meditation like we just were doing, this can be a way to maybe develop a new samskara, a new pattern of using sound. And this one, it'll just be sound in your head, so you're not saying anything out loud. And it connects with the breath. So on your inhale, saying to yourself the word I, and on your exhale, M, A-M. I on the inhale, M on the exhale. Just repeating these two words in your head with your breath. And now see what might arise to finish the sentence. Trying not to overthink it. I am blank. Right? So it could be something very simple like I am strong, I am beautiful, I am confident. Again, trying not to overthink. Whatever is the first thing that comes to mind, that's a positive, something to cultivate that you want to bring in, encourage more of, use that. So don't get down on yourself in this moment. Try to move away from anything negative and focus on a quality that you want to cultivate, a samskara, a new habit, a new way of thinking. Continue to repeat your phrase, I on the inhale and M and your word on the exhale. Repeating the same phrase over and over with the breath. And even if you don't quite believe it right now, this can be a great way to begin to create that new samskara, that new pattern. Strengthen that pathway in your brain that says, I am beautiful. And with practice, with repetition, it strengthens that connection. It helps make that stronger, more real. So this connects with the idea of helping to manifest what you're saying, manifesting your mantra. So just repeat your phrase, your personal mantra, a few more times. And when you are ready, slowly blinking open your eyes, bringing yourself back to the space around you. And I invite you to use this mantra in the rest of your day, repeating it to yourself, perhaps writing it down, another way to strengthen it. Putting it up somewhere where you can see it, on a mirror, maybe taking a picture or typing it out and putting it as the background of your computer, on your car dashboard, somewhere that it can remind you that you are strong, you are beautiful, you are confident, whatever that phrase is for you. And so now we're going to bring our awareness to our breath again. Deepening it, lengthening it. Cultivating a yogic breath, a diaphragmatic breath. So using our diaphragm, the muscle underneath our lungs, to get a fuller, deeper breath. Letting your belly and chest rise on the inhale and fall on the exhale. It's just a slight movement of finding that rhythm. Might be a different pattern, different habit than we're used to breathing. Very common habit or samskara of breathing is to breathe very shallowly, especially if we're stressed. So here we're purposely trying to cultivate a different type of breath, a fuller breath where we're using our full lung capacity. Let's add in some movement along with our breath now. Inhale, lengthen your spine, grow tall. Exhale and gaze over your right shoulder. Inhale, come back to center. And exhale, gaze over your left shoulder. Inhale back to center. And exhale, come again over to the other side. And just move continuously with your breath. Every inhale coming to center. Every exhale gently turning to the side, any amount, not forcing. Notice how this feels in your body. Does it feel different on one side versus the other? And just finish up on the left, taking your time. And it's common that one side of our body might feel different. One side might feel tighter or have pain. One side might feel more neutral or kind of numb, hard to feel it. And sometimes that can have to do with patterns or some scars of ways we move our body, right? Which hand is dominant. So I know if I'm right-handed, I'm using a mouse a lot, and that might sometimes cause some shoulder pain and some neck pain. So then being careful and aware when I am doing movements in my everyday, and then maybe when I'm doing neck movements, of holding a little bit longer on that side, deepening the stretch a little more because of the pattern I have. So I'm changing my pattern or habit of yoga asana, of movement, to help address a pattern and habit of how I move my body in my everyday. And then it can also help you be aware, like if you always sit with your legs crossed, right? And notice, like, if over time that could cause pain in your hip or your back, can you begin to shift that pattern of your everyday movement and sit with both legs flat? Or if you sit a lot, Can you stand up more? If you stand a lot, are there moments where you can rest, right? So trying to shift these habits or patterns of movement in order to create more balance in our body. Let's move our head up and down now. So inhaling, lifting our chin, but still lengthen the back of your neck. Exhale, drop your chin to your chest. Doing this with your breath. Every inhale, lifting up, moving slow and gentle. Every exhale, dropping your chin down. Let's add in more movement with the rest of the spine. So as you inhale, bring your chest forward, tilt your pelvis forward as you still lift your chin. And then as you exhale, round your whole spine, tilt your pelvis back as your chin comes to your chest. Then do a few more rounds of this seated cat and cow at your own pace. So this is perhaps a different pattern of moving with cat and cow than you're used to if you've done yoga before and you've done it on your hands and knees. So just exploring how this feels in your body. And now, after your next one, we're going to add in arms as well. So we're going to inhale, sweep our arms back as we inhale, lift up, and exhale, palms reach forward like you're hugging someone or holding a big beach ball, rounding. Continue to move with your breath. Shoulders stay on the back, away from the ears. Neck is long, even when we're lifting up. And do one more. And sitting tall. Taking a moment to connect again with your personal mantra, your I am phrase. We'll do one more movement with the neck. We'll inhale and grow tall. Exhale, drop your right ear towards your right shoulder. Take a few breaths here. So this time we're not moving dynamically. We're changing the pattern. We're holding, but still breathe here. If you want, you may take your right hand gently on your head and reach your left fingertips down and out at an angle. So you're feeling this angle of energy through your fingertips, all the way up your arm, side of your neck, to the top of your head. When you're ready, slowly release, bring your hands down, gently lift your head, get tall for a breath. Exhale, left ear towards your left shoulder, and not rushing. So taking your time just to settle in on this side, see how it feels. And then if it feels okay, and it could be different on this side, bring your left hand gently to your head, right fingertips reach down and out at an angle. Still sitting up tall with the rest of your spine, still breathing deep. One more breath. And when you're ready, slowly release and come up. So one pattern or samskara that I often fall into when teaching, especially teaching chair yoga, is I work a lot with the upper body. So we worked a lot already with the neck, a little bit with the shoulders and the spine. And I tend to forget about the legs and the feet. So I'm trying to change my habit or samskara and do some work with the legs. So get comfortable and steady in your chair, or you could do this on the ground with your legs stretched out in front of you. Let's lift our right leg and flex the foot and take a breath or two here, reaching through your heel. And then inhale and point your toes, lengthen the top of your foot. Exhale, flex. Do this a few times with your breath. And now pause, just let the foot be neutral. And you might notice your leg really firing up to hold it up. And if this is starting to hurt, bend your knee a little bit, but still have your foot up in the air just a little. Or if you want, you can have the legs straight out. We're now going to move with some ankle circles. So picking one direction, continuing to breathe deep. See if you can isolate the movement just in your ankle. It can be hard. The whole leg might want to move. The movement might want to come from your hip, but trying to move just from your ankle. Switch the direction of your circles. And take one more breath here, flexing the foot, reach through your heel, get nice and tall, so feeling your core fire up here. And then exhale, bend your knee, release your foot down. So moving to the other side, take a breath to reach your foot out, lengthen through your heel. Your hands can come to your hips. If you have arms on your chairs, you could hold on to those, be down by your side. And then we'll point and flex. Inhale. Point, exhale, flex, reach through your heel. Inhale, stretch the top of your foot. Exhale, stretch the heel and the calf. Do a couple more with your breath. And then let the foot be neutral. And again, if this is feeling like too much in your leg, holding it up, let your knee bend a little bit so your foot's just hovering maybe a few inches off the ground. So now we'll do some circles with the ankle, picking one direction, breathing deep and even. Perhaps sending compassionate breath to your ankle as you're doing this movement. When you're ready, switch. Just trying your best. If your ankle is really stiff, or if you have an injury and you need to be gentle, take care of yourself. Do your best. And when you're ready, take a moment just to reach through the heel again, activating the leg, and then release. Bring the foot down. And just checking in with how the legs and the ankles are feeling. So now I'm going to invite you to bring both legs out. And as much as you can, straightening the legs, they don't have to be perfectly straight. Noticing the muscles of your legs engaging, firing up. And try not to lean back into your chair if you can, sitting up away from the chair, and that will really fire up your core. And you could even reach your arms up, but make sure that feels okay in your back. If it doesn't, bend your knees a little, bring your arms down. Take one more breath here. And then when you're ready, bend your knees, arms come down. So now we want to open the front of the body a little bit. And when we're sitting a lot, there's a lot of work that the hip flexors and the iliopsoas muscle are doing, and the psoas tends to be really tight in many of us. So we'll do a few movements that help open up the front of the body. So for this next one, you need to have a chair that does not have wheels and make sure it's not going to slide along the floor. I will also show how to do this on the floor if you'd rather do that. But if this doesn't work for your body, or you don't have the right chair or floor you can do it on, you can just observe. So I'm going to turn to the side to show you. And I'm pushing my chair up against this shelf, so it's another way to stabilize it. I'm going to begin to scoot towards the front of my chair, bring my hands behind me. My fingertips are reaching forward. My hands are on the seat of the chair. And then from here, I'm going to begin to lift my chest a little bit. And maybe this is where you stay. This is where you stop. So if you're on the ground, this would be like this. So your feet are in front of you, planted, your hands are planted behind you, and you're just puffing up your chest a little bit. But to really open the front of the body, you might begin to walk your feet forward a little more and maybe begin to lift your hips up, really activating in the glutes and the core, keeping the knees lined up. Breathe into your shoulders, breathe into your chest. Toes are down, pressing through your legs, and then slowly come down. So if you have any shoulder, wrist issues, and that doesn't work for you, you can always skip it. On the ground, it would look like this, lifting your hips up. You could do it just a little, or maybe you bring your torso parallel to the ground. You could even let your head back, really lifting your hips up. A couple of pointers here is imagine that there's a ball or a block, or if you have a yoga block, you could place it between your knees. So your knees aren't kind of going everywhere, because we want to protect and strengthen our back, and keeping the knees in line with the hips, keeping that engagement in the glutes and the legs can help with that. So if you want, you could try it one more time. Hands come to the chair seat behind you. Fingertips are reaching forward towards your bottom. Again, you could do this on the ground. And you might begin to lift up just a tiny bit. You could even walk your feet forward, kind of find your right placement. And then push your hips up. Find this line of energy. Maybe let your head fall back if that's okay on your neck. One more breath. And then release slowly down. So this is called reverse table pose. So that pose might not be for everyone, especially if you're taking care of your shoulders. And so we'll do a couple other ones that we can open up the psoas. So I'm going to turn my chair forward, but I'm going to sit sideways on it. So for this one, you need a chair without arms. And I'm going to come all the way over to one side, so my glute and my hip are coming off the chair on one side. And then my other hand is coming to the back of the chair for support. And then I'm walking my foot back and stretching it out long. So this is a supported lunge. And then my other knee is bent. And if you want to do this without the chair, you could do it like this. My back heel is lifted, so there's an element of balance. You could even lift your arms, whether you're seated in the chair or standing. And if this feels too wobbly and you're standing, very carefully, you could bring your back knee down, and maybe doing this on a yoga mat or a blanket so you have some support on your back knee. Breathing here, maybe gently opening up the chest, still keeping some engagement in the low belly and the glutes, just like we did in reverse table. And then coming down. Great job, everyone. So moving to the other side. So up to you. If you're doing this on a chair, standing, or kneeling. So finding your version of the lunge, crescent warrior. Arms up are optional. All of this is optional, right? So you're finding what feels right for your body. And maybe you're cultivating a new habit or pattern, so it could feel a little intense, and that's okay. But knowing the difference between creating a new habit or pattern and then pushing too deep too fast. So one more breath, maybe lifting up a little, and then slowly come down. Yoga, we talk about this idea of finding our edge, finding that point where we're challenging ourselves that will help us grow, will help us create new samskaras. But we don't want to push past that edge, because that's where injury could occur. With practice, we begin to cultivate mindfulness of what's going on with our body, of noticing these little signals that are telling us, maybe this version isn't going to work for me. Maybe arms up doesn't work. Maybe I need to keep my arms down. And noticing those slight signals, right? It might be pulling in the muscles or heat or sharpness. and discerning between what those signals are that are like, oh, this is just stretching something I haven't stretched in a long time and it's okay, versus this is not safe for me anymore and I'm going to hurt myself. And it can be hard to discern the difference, and it takes practice, especially if you've hurt yourself in the past. You might be a little more fearful and trying to think, is this like my fear saying this? Or, you know, is this what's really happening? And that sometimes we might ignore what our mind is telling us of like, don't do this, this is too far, you're going to hurt yourself. And we might ignore that and then push ourselves too far and hurt ourselves. So being very gentle and patient with yourself. So let's come to standing now, and find the back of your chair or a wall, and we're going to bring our hands to the back of the chair and begin to walk away from the chair. Feet are at least hip distance apart. Push your hips back. Let your head release gently between your arms. If you need to, your knees can bend a little bit. Breathe into the backs of your legs. Breathe along your spine. And you could do this with your hands on the wall as well. And then take one more breath. And then come up. And we're going to do that again in a moment. So sometimes it takes a few moments to assess what we need and kind of notice differences. You know, doing it multiple times will allow us to kind of go maybe a little deeper or realize something new. So you might, if you have wall space, try it on a wall now just to mix it up. So if you're coming about halfway down, this is like a half lift in yoga. If your chair is a little higher, you're more at an angle, that might be more like down dog. So I'll show at the wall what might be more like a down dog type movement, where my hands are up a little higher, I'm at an angle. And I'm gently engaging my core here, pushing my hips back, trying to lengthen my spine. Breathing into the backs of my legs. Taking a couple more breaths wherever you are. And then slowly coming up. So finding mountain pose where your feet are roughly under your hips. Palms are turning forward, rooting down evenly through both feet. And let's work with the feet a little bit more here. So we're going to work with the feet and with balance. We're going to inhale and come up on our toes as we lift our arms up. And then exhale, sweep our arms down by our sides as we let our heels come down. And doing this a few times with your breath, gently up and down. Noticing habits or patterns you might have on how you place the weight on your feet. Come down and pause for a moment. Lift up your ankles, shake them out. So sometimes we tend to roll in with our feet, and sometimes we tend to roll out. And so when you lift up, if you tend to roll in, you might notice more weight on the big toe side of your feet. And if you tend to roll out, maybe on the pinky toe side. So we're going to do that a few more times again, doing things a couple times to begin to create new habits and notice kind of how it feels in the body, and try to press evenly through all your toes. Notice if there's a tendency to roll out or roll in, and see if you can make some adjustments. And again, you don't have to lift up really high. It doesn't have to be a big lift with the heels. So when you're ready, inhale up and exhale down. Going a couple more times with your breath. and coming down. I went too high and then I fell out of it a little. And that's okay. If you wobble, if you come out of a pose, trying to be careful as you fall out of it. I don't want anyone to get hurt as they're falling out, but knowing that falling and wobbling is part of the practice. It takes time. This isn't an instant thing. And I say it's not only the yoga movements, the asanas, but the transitions between them, or even falling out of them, is part of the process too. And we want to bring mindfulness and awareness to all of those things as well. So let's bring some awareness as we transition now to face away from our chair and bring the hands to our chair. We're going to move into a standing camel. Check in with your feet and see that they're pointed straight in front of you, and maybe you're standing about hip distance apart with your legs. And then walk them forward a little bit. Begin to puff up your chest a little. Gentle engagement in the glutes and the low belly. Begin to lift up from your low back. Lift your chest, maybe lift your gaze. Back of the neck still stays long. Shoulders are coming down your back. Press your hips slightly forward. One more breath. When you're ready, slowly coming back to center, gently releasing your arms. Let's do a few shoulder rolls here, up and back. So I know for me, a samskara, a pattern or habit I have, is to round forward a lot when I'm on my computer like this, right? So I'm just going to go back with my shoulder rolls. But if it feels good for your body to go forward as well, you can do that. So let's do a couple more poses standing and then we'll come to seated. So a pose that is often done on a yoga mat, often laying on your back or folding forward, is pigeon pose. We often do it seated in a chair, but I'm going to mix it up a little bit today, change my pattern by doing it as a standing balance, and then we'll also do it seated in a chair. And if this doesn't work for you, like if you have an ankle injury and standing on one leg won't work, you can just go right to the chair now or just watch. So we're going to shift the weight over onto the right leg and then bend the knees a little bit. And then take your left foot and cross it over either at the shin or at the thigh. And again, you're bending your right knee and you're flexing, maybe flexing and activating your left leg that's crossing over. And I'm holding on to my chair for support here. You don't have to do this. You could hold on to a wall. You might bring your hands to heart center. So from the side, it would look like this. And you could gently press your knee away from you if you wanted. Your hands might come to heart center, might come to your hips. If you wanted to explore some different variations, you could see what happens if you fold forward. But if this gets too intense, come up. If you feel too wobbly, come up. Being careful in those transitions. One more breath here. And then slowly straighten your legs, uncross them. Let's shake it out. Coming back to your intention. Taking a moment in mountain pose. Growing tall, breathing deep and even. Coming back to your I am phrase. Then we'll switch sides. Bending the knees a little bit. Weight shifts over to the left leg as our base leg. And then we're opening our hip out to the side. And we can cross at the shin. You could even keep your toes on the ground. You could maybe help your foot up onto the thigh. And you might flex your foot, activating the leg. Seeing how this feels. Sometimes that can help bring more stability. Seeing what you need. You might sink down deeper. Maybe you hold on to your chair. Taking a few breaths here. You can always bring your hands to heart center, working on balance, having patience. Maybe you begin to fold forward. Just an option. Nothing is required. Continue to breathe deep and even. When you are ready, begin to slowly lift up. Uncross the legs. Shake out your ankles. And just shake out the whole body. Let's just let our arms kind of flop side to side. Gentle twisting motion. Seeing how this gentle twist feels in your body. So we're going to come into one more twist before we come down to seated. And you can use the seat of your chair, so you might turn your chair around, or you might use something lower like a yoga block, or if your chair has a rung you wanted to put your foot on, you could do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to place one leg up on the chair or the block, and then we're going to hold onto our knee with our opposite hand, and then bring our other hand behind us. And take a couple of deep breaths here. You can also do this against the wall for more support. So I'll just show you from the other side, where my outer hip is coming against the wall and then I'm opening up my chest to the wall. So it might allow you to get a little more opening across the chest and a little more stability, less balancing needed. So come down slowly, shake it out, and then we'll switch sides. Bring the other foot up. It could stay lower. If that doesn't feel good on the hip to bring the foot up that high, right, you can use a block or something lower. Opposite hand to the knee, other hand comes behind you. You can also hold on to the wall, hold on to another object here. Continuing to breathe, even as you're twisting. One more breath. And slowly unwinding, coming back to center. Take a moment just to shake it out. And when you feel ready, coming back to your seat. Sitting comfortably, sitting tall. Just checking in with your breath, seeing if you can still cultivate the deep, even breath in and out. So we'll end with a breathing technique. And this could be a new technique for you or a different way to breathe. And so just doing your best with it. Again, it's a new maybe habit or pattern to create. And know that wherever you are is where you are. It's a great place to start. And know that with practice and with time, it will get easier. So what we're going to do is begin to cultivate what is called the wave breath. And we're going to bring one hand to our belly and one hand to our chest. As you're inhaling, remember that full breath, trying to fill our lungs completely. See if you can feel a slight lift under your hands. And then as you exhale, slightly lowering. And now specifically, as you're inhaling, see if you can notice your top hand rising first, and then your bottom hand. And then as you exhale, see if you can let your bottom hand fall slightly first, and then your top hand. So that's the pattern, the wave of our breath. Inhaling, letting the top hand rise as the lungs start to fill. And then the bottom hand as they fill completely. And then as you exhale, The bottom hand falls slightly, and then the top hand. And there's other breathing techniques that have a different opposite pattern or habit. So that can be confusing. And just trying your best if you're used to that other pattern or habit. One isn't better or right and the other wrong. They're just different. So just taking a few more breaths like this, trying your best wherever you are. When you're ready, releasing your hands slowly down. Letting your hands rest however is comfortable. Eyes close or gaze away from the screen. And for just a few more rounds of breath, repeat your mantra, your I am phrase. Helping to strengthen that pathway in your brain. Helping your mantra, your affirmation to manifest. Now you might bring your hands to heart center, or maybe place one or both hands over your heart. Taking a moment in gratitude. Thanking yourself for deepening your practice, for cultivating new habits, new samskaras. And thank you all for sharing your practice with me. The light within me bows to and honors that same light within you. Namaste.